Good evening. I am Lieutenant Governor Tregenza Roach. Welcome to episode 11 of the Press Box. This is our opportunity to engage on a number of relevant topics. Today, I want to bring the community up to date on what's new with my office, including property taxes. Joining me for this discussion is Brent Leardam, tax collector in the Division of Real Property Tax. But before we begin that discussion, we will hear from Dr. Esther Ellis, Territorial Epidemiologist for the Virgin Islands Department of Health, for an update on COVID-19. Dr. Ellis, welcome. How are you this evening?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Please proceed with your update.
I wanted to get an opportunity to talk about the COVID numbers, so thank you so much for having me on the Press Box tonight. We put numbers out today, so as of September 23rd, we had 32 new cases in the territory. We conducted 696 tests, and our 7-day percent positivity is now 4.46%. We are really trying to keep that number below 5%, but we're slowly still creeping up. We do have the Delta strain in the territory now, and that's part of the reason we're seeing this new surge. But it does look like, from the data, the surge on St. Thomas has ended, which is great news. We only had 4 new cases in St. Thomas right now, and there's currently 56 active cases on St. Thomas. However, the surge on St. Croix is what it looks like just beginning. So if you live on St. Croix, you need to be extra diligent to follow all the guidelines that we give, to avoid mass gatherings, to wear your mask if you're outside of your household and can't distance away from others. We had 27 new cases in St. Croix just today. We currently have 163 active cases, and then not to leave out St. John, we did have 1 active case on St. John today, and we currently have 3 active cases on St. John. We've had a total of, unfortunately, 69 fatalities.
Yes, it's really interesting, thank you for that, how the numbers flip-flop from time to time. Just a few weeks ago, the numbers were reversed with quite a few cases in the St. Thomas, St. John district, and fewer on St. Croix. And the advice that you give to the population in each instance is to just be more vigilant, in taking those precautions. The one number that I always find critical to also look at is the number of hospitalizations. And I noticed that those numbers have been going down as well. Could you comment a little about that?
Yes, those numbers have been going down, which is great. I can pull up those numbers so that during our discussion I have the exact numbers in just a moment. But a lot of the reason why our hospitalizations are so low is because we have been so good at identifying cases quickly and then offering monoclonal antibody treatment, or as we call it in the healthcare field, MAB. And that actually has been almost 100% successful at preventing hospitalization. Here in the territory, it's been 99% successful. And these are individuals that are at high risk of becoming hospitalized because there's comorbidities or underlying health issues. And we have, if you get it early, we have been very successful in preventing hospitalizations. Actually, Dr. Ty Hunt-Caesar was recognized nationally for the effort. We, out of all states and territories, have really done the best out of getting people and offering MAB quickly, identifying the positives. It's really been a collaboration between EPI, the healthcare providers, transportation, because if you think of it, these are individuals that are positive, and they need to get an IV infusion of MAB safely, so they have to be transported safely to the hospital or an infusion center as well. So that has been a really great effort, and also one of the reasons why our fatalities are still really low. We're one of the 4th lowest, along with Alaska and Hawaii. We're kind of all down.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And please extend our congratulations to Dr. Hunt. Could you comment while we were prepping for the show, we had a brief conversation about the vaccinations and about the topic of discussion now being this idea of people needing a booster. Could you tell us a little about that?
Right. And so over time with this vaccine, your antibodies do wane or go down. And so just yesterday, the Pfizer vaccine was approved for a booster. If it's been more than 8 months since you've had your Pfizer vaccine, you can, and you're a healthcare provider, or you're 65 and older, or you're immune compromised, you can get a booster. And at some point soon, we'll have boosters for everyone, not just that population. It's similar to how we phased out the first vaccine, where it went out to healthcare providers first. We're doing that with the boosters as well. If you are immune compromised, you can qualify for the booster or a third dose for Pfizer or Moderna.
Okay.
And then for Johnson & Johnson, it's, the booster will be coming. It's not approved yet, but it's in the process of being approved. It's also recommended.
Okay, excellent. I was interested in that because I kept hearing, I personally had the Johnson, and I kept hearing about the booster for Pfizer and Moderna.
Right.
So I was feeling some of those questions as well.
Yeah, they did. There was some data that was published yesterday that showed that a booster is helpful.
Okay.
And they have done a study that shows you also have waning immunities if you did get the Johnson & Johnson Janssen vaccine, but not approved yet. They're kind of, the approval looks like it's tracking along the same lines as when the vaccines came out.
Okay.
But it is going pretty quickly.
Okay, so at present, be mindful the time, the length of time from the vaccine, age, over 65, and immune compromised. Right. Okay, beautiful. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure our public will find that information very useful. Did you hit on the hospitalizations as yet?
Yeah, I'm pulling up the hospitalizations, and while I do that, I also have the vaccine rate. But for Juan F. Louis Hospital, there are currently 4 individuals hospitalized, and for Schneider Regional Medical Center, there are no patients hospitalized.
Okay, excellent.
That's what I have.
I remember.
And then for the vaccination rate, and this is really, it's really important when you look at the rate, that you look at the 12 and up population. So those are all the individuals that can get the vaccine. So our 12 and up population so far, 59.5% have had at least 1 dose, and 51.3% are fully vaccinated.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much for that report, and thank you for engaging us with those questions. You know, for our audience, unfortunately, when you live in a hurricane zone, you can't focus on only one thing. So we're here dealing with an epidemic. At the same time, we're in the heart of the hurricane season. And so we wanted to take a moment to share some information from the division of our division of banking and insurance about how you can prep for hurricanes. So one of the things you have to, that's of critical importance, is getting coverage early. You cannot get coverage after there's a named storm. You can't insure from a storm after it's already in existence. So you always have to be mindful of that, always on the lookout, following tracking the storms and making sure you do that. When you buy a policy, you have to avoid being underinsured. That was a big discussion after Hurricanes Irma and Maria, and we've put guidelines in place to encourage people to purchase at least 80% of the replacement cost value of your residential property. And we have brochures available at the Lieutenant Governor's website about how you can do this. One of the issues that also comes up is where persons fail to get insurance and the banks do what is called forced place insurance. A lot of people do not understand how they're affected when the banks do this. If there is forced place insurance on your home, you have to be mindful that the bank is only insuring its interest. So if your house is worth $500,000 and you have a mortgage of $70,000 left, the bank is only covering its interest. Now, when that happens, they're required to give you notice, number one. And number two, you can go out and procure insurance and replace it with that forced place policy that the bank has sought. And they also have to reimburse you for what portion of the premiums their company has not earned. Remember, those persons who rent, sometimes you think it's only about homeowners insurance, but you have to be mindful to protect your interests by also getting what's called renter's insurance. We also advise you to take precautions to put documents in a safe place, to keep your documents in containers or items that protect them, and to procure flood insurance as well as windstorm and earthquake that are pretty much standard in other policies. If you have any questions, you can contact our offices, the office in St. Croix at 773-6449, the office in St. Thomas at 774-2991, or go to our website at ltggovi.gov. Thank you so much. We must now take a short break. Please stay with us and join us for the remainder of our discussion. Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
But what you saying, Jimmy? Me saying a hot minute, you know. What's going on today, John? It's been a hot minute for real. You want to know something? My mother told me that I can't come out my house because of COVID-19. I know we ain't safe out there for a little bit, but still I just have some fun though. Well, my side can't leave the house unless I'm vaccinated. But you won't scared of the vaccine? Nah, sis. The vaccine's safe.
VIP people, you must stay at work. COVID-19 is not a joke. It's much more than good hygiene. Give your children the vaccine. Education is the golden rule. Children need in-person school. They miss music, dancing and sports. Vaccination is better, not worse.
I want a COVID vaccine. Give me the COVID vaccine. It's safe, mommy. The vaccine safe, safe, safe. I want to see my friends and family. Playing with them makes me happy. It's safe, mommy. The vaccine safe, safe, safe.
Children can become infected, get sick, and spread COVID-19 to others. Widespread vaccination is a critical tool to help stop the pandemic. People who are fully vaccinated can resume activities that they did prior to the pandemic. The MCH division encourages you to get your children ages 12 years and older vaccinated.
I want a COVID vaccine. Give me the COVID vaccine. It's safe, mommy. The vaccine safe, safe, safe.
Brought to you by the Virgin Islands Department of Health MCH program.
Virgin Islands veterans, I'm standing here on Veterans Drive, built in honor of us, Virgin Islands veterans. But we now must do our part to bring more VA medical benefits to our shores. How can we do that, you may ask? Get on www.va.gov and get registered. This is the way that we can do our part. Get registered at www.va.gov. We're counting on you.
Welcome back. As I promised, we wanted to share information about what's happening with the offices of the Lieutenant Governor. And I am extremely proud to share with you that our geographical information systems has won a national award. And they competed with states and regions and other territories. And we are the only recipient of the Exemplary Government Award by the Urban and Regional Systems Information Association for our Street Addressing Initiative, which is a critical infrastructure project for the territory. You may have seen us in the towns of Frederiksted and Christiansted, Cruz Bay and Charlotte Amalia when we were doing the original work. But our staff, the Information Systems Division headed by Mr. Chris George and Jarlene Knight at that division, they will be going off to Ohio in October to receive that award on our behalf. And we are very grateful for the good work that they have done, and very grateful for the recognition of our offices in really setting this project in a way that receives national attention. So I'm very happy to share that with you this evening. Now, this evening, we're also going to go to our discussion. You know, just recently we had our property tax delinquency listing fill up the newspaper. in both districts, in St. Croix, the Avis, in St. Thomas, St. John, the Daily News. And so we wanted to have a conversation about what this means to the residents of the territory. So today I'm pleased to have with me our director, or tax collector, who heads up our tax collecting division, Mr. Brent Latham. And I think this is the first opportunity we get to be on TV or Facebook or wherever we are.
Yes, right. Governor, thank you.
So welcome. I get the opportunity to tell you that throughout this process and even before, I've been getting a lot of compliments about the office. I get a little thing about the people back up and they're out in the sun waiting to pay, etc. But they've been complimentary of the assistance that they've received from both you and the staff. And so I wanted to convey that as well and to just have you join me in this discussion. So welcome.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. We have a very capable staff, and I thank them every day for the work that they're doing. Thank you for this opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So I think people want to know why we publish their names in this listing of delinquent property taxes. So give us a little justification, if you will, for that item.
Right. Thank you. Well, as you know, Lieutenant Governor, we are required by law to provide this delinquency listing. And so we made focus on tax years 2015 and before, because as you also know, we have records dating back many years. And so it is our responsibility to make sure that we not only get the word out, but we provide all possible solutions for taxpayers to cure these delinquencies.
Okay. So you shared a lot of information right there. I know that when I was at the legislature, this was a conversation. And just recently, our division was under pressure from the legislature, from the government's financial team to collect on these property taxes, which now number, how many millions are out there?
The number ebbs and flows, but it's around 100 million in delinquency.
About 100 million. And it's important for people to understand what you pointed out. I want to reinforce some of this information, that we're talking about historic delinquencies.
That's correct.
2015 and back to as early as
1979.
1979. And unfortunately, in the past, we can't account for whether the listing was or was not published, but we are required by law to do that. So thank you for pointing that out.
That is correct.
Because people ought to understand that these taxes are collected and they go to the general fund and support the delivery of good public services.
That's correct.
To the people of the territory. So one of the concerns that people have is they may call and they say, I cannot pay this amount right this minute. I recognize I have the obligation, but I can't pay it. And what do you respond to those persons?
Thank you. Well, what's most important is that persons contact the office, make sure that their address of record is correct, first with the Office of the Tax Assessor. But when it comes to the delinquencies and record, we can provide customers with payment plan options to assist them during this time, because some taxpayers have many years of delinquency, and the government is not interested in seizing and auctioning people's properties. We want to find a way for them to be able to pay their taxes.
And could you tell us what has the response been? What has that been like?
The response has been overwhelming, quite frankly. Many people have come in to pay up front. Others have asked for payment plans. We've done many payment plans in the past 2 weeks, more than we've done in the past year. And customers are appreciative of the fact that we offer payment plans that do not add any additional interest or penalties to the obligation.
Good. You know, I received a phone call, and I think I want to share a thought to people who may think that this is an embarrassment to people, that their name is made public. So, number one, you hit it off, it's a legal obligation, it's a legal requirement. But I want to share an example of why this publication is important. Because I got a call from an adult child because they saw their parents' home listed as being delinquent on property taxes. And so they called me and they're like, wait a minute, my adult brother has the power of attorney and is to ensure that this happens. And so I know that they weren't just blowing smoke, as we say, because as soon as they saw that in the paper, they came and discharged the obligation.
Yes.
And so here is an opportunity where a person who has an interest in a property, like an heir in this instance,
Yes.
may not know that the property taxes are not being paid. It may be represented to them that in fact that is happening when in fact it isn't. And so this is your opportunity now to say, oh my God, wait, our property is in jeopardy. Let's go and discharge the taxes. Have you seen other examples
You're
like
exactly correct, Lieutenant Governor. We have experienced the exact same situation that because the owner of record may have passed away or even moved on, the address of record has not been updated. So that publication is sometimes the only way that family members can see that there's an obligation due on behalf of their family and on behalf of their interests. And so they would not have received a bill because they were not the owner of record, nor was it changed appropriately.
Okay, good. Now what we've done is we've looked at the website, we've looked at our Facebook pages, we've looked at the questions that have come into the offices, and we've distilled from that a list of frequently asked questions that we will come to a little bit later in the program. But one of the things that I wanted to really reinforce with people, and you just really touched on it, is their concern that because their name was published in the paper, because the property was listed in the paper, now it's going to be sold. That this is the equivalent of an auction listing.
Right.
And I want you to speak to that so that they understand from our perspective why this publication is useful for us and to them.
Thank you for this opportunity. This was not an auction list that was published. What we published was a delinquency list of all delinquent tax years of 2015 and prior. And it's the first step in the process of, it's an extensive process for which, before we can even discuss auctions, we have to vet each property, inspect it, make sure that the boundaries are what they say they were. We have to post publications to notify potential lien holders that it's about to be placed on auction. So the auction is a long way off, but the delinquency publication, which was listed, gives parcel owners the opportunity to one, be advised if perhaps they weren't receiving a bill, and two, to come in and make arrangements to pay if they can't pay all up front.
Excellent. And again, you've had very good response.
Excellent response. People have been, even if they're unable to pay right now, they become aware of their obligations and begin to make arrangements to do so.
Good. And you made a point earlier, I believe it might have been in our discussion off camera, but people ought to know that they have the opportunity to discharge a tax obligation up to? I didn't follow it.
No,
with regard to, say, an auction, if we ever get to that point, they can pay up to?
Up to the very last day before the auction. So that's correct. Even throughout the entire collection process, while we're vetting properties to actually place on auction, they have the opportunity to come in up to 3:00 p.m. the day before the auction and cure that delinquency and be removed from the auction process.
Okay, yeah, because I think it's really, really important to reinforce because it's so easy for people to get the wrong idea or to rely on misinformation. And I think we ought to point out that we've done quite a lot to work with persons to discharge this obligation to the government of the Virgin Islands.
That's correct.
We had, in the past year, two amnesties?
Two amnesties, yes.
Tell us about them.
In the past 13 months, in the past a year and a half, we have had 13 months of amnesty. The first was granted by the legislature, and the second was granted by our office.
And so we've made attempts to do that, and we've also had these payment plans, and we listen to persons about the different hardships that may have occurred or may be occurring, and then we work with them in...
Yes, we continue to do that every day.
Okay, beautiful, thank you. Now, one of the, in addition to, this has come up, but I think we should clarify this. Where can, if you miss it in the paper, are there other places where you can view this listing, or how do you?
Yes. In addition to the publications that we placed in the Virgin Islands Daily News and the St. Croix Avis, we also have a link in the Virgin Islands source that points to our website. And so persons can go up and view at ltg.gov.vi. And under the Office of the Tax Collector, they would see the entire delinquency list, as well as opportunities to pay, even if they're off island, to remit payment and to arrange for payment plans.
Okay, very good. So thank you so much for that. At this point, we're going to take another break, and we ask that you stay with us because we're going to address some of the frequently asked questions when we return, so that we provide you as much information as possible with regard to this subject. Stay with us, and we look forward to your returning.
The Atlantic hurricane season begins on June 1st and lasts through November 30th. Please take necessary steps to protect you, your family, and the community.
Begin collecting supplies such as bottled waters and non-perishable food, batteries, radios, games for children.
Don't forget about your pets, and especially your elderly family. Take time now to trim trees, install or check shutters, talk to children about hurricanes, and allow them to pack their own go bags.
These activities can help reduce anxiety in the event of a storm. We're a small community.
Together we can ensure our islands, homes, and families remain prepared for hurricanes.
Register for Alert VI emergency notification by visiting vitema.vi.gov. Make a plan.
Be prepared.
Stay informed.
Has the COVID pandemic caused you to fall behind on your rent? What about your electric or water bills? Well, VIHFA's Emergency Rental Assistance Program is here to help you catch up. For program details and qualifications, go to VIHFA and click on the ERAP link. From there, it's just 3 steps. 1. Make sure you are eligible. Have you lost income due to COVID-19, owe at least 1 month of rent or utilities, and meet the federal household income guidelines for your island? 2. Gather all the required ID and documentation for all members of your household, plus statements from your landlord or utility company. 3. Submit your application online at vihfa.gov or call one of the intake centers on your island to make an appointment to apply in person. For more details and locations of the intake centers, please visit vihfa.gov.
Welcome back to our discussion with tax collector, Mr. Brent Latham, about our recent publication in newspapers of record, the Avis and St. Croix, the Daily News, St. Thomas, St. John, we had an ad on the online paper, The Source, directing them to our website where they can view the listing even if they don't buy a newspaper.
Correct.
So frequently asked questions. The office, somebody says, I paid my taxes. How come my name is on this delinquency list? What should a person do if they see their name published, which we're legally authorized to do, but they believe that they have discharged their tax obligation? What is it?
We would ask customers that have their name appearing on the website or on the list, and they feel that the taxes have been paid, to please contact our office and produce whatever receipts that you may have to show that payment was made. We will immediately honor any receipts produced.
And again, I think we have to make a point clear. This is historic delinquency.
Yes.
So it goes from 2015 back as early as 1979.
1979.
What do people say about, are they calling about any delinquency more current than that, from 2015 coming forward?
Well, yes. Customers ask about whether or not it encompasses all of the delinquencies. And the answer to that is not necessarily. If your property has delinquencies, obligations for tax years 2016 up to and through 2021, it would be additional balances for which, when you contact our office, we would provide you with a total accounting of all tax years.
Okay, good. Thank you. The second question concerns people who, for whatever reasons, we kind of touched on it before, but we want to make sure that people understand. They call the office and they say, okay, I acknowledge that I have this tax debt, but I'm not able to discharge it in its entirety at this particular time. And what's your response?
Well, that's where we offer payment plans. And so how the payment plans work is the following. We look at everything that's owed up until that day of signing for all tax years, and any interest and penalties that has accrued naturally by law. And we take that total, and the customer would be required to pay 15% upon signing, upon beginning installment payment agreement. And the remaining balance can be spread over up to 3 years, depending on the balance.
Okay. So a minimal payment of 15%?
15%.
Of what is owed. And it's important to remind people that they have to stay current.
Yes.
With the payment plan.
If a payment plan is in place and is current, in a current status, they would be removed from any future delinquency list as well as the auction process. It has to stay in a current status.
Okay, beautiful. Now, of course, we have these questions because we have taxpayers who are in the territory and we have taxpayers who are outside of the territory. So we have people asking, well, do I have to come into the office to enter into a payment agreement? Suppose I'm not in the territory. What do you share with them?
Well, previously, yes, we required customers to come into the office, but we've since amended our posture to allow for persons that are off island to register the interest in beginning an installment payment plan and to receive an appointment for which we would interact with them and exchange the proper information and provide that service to them, regardless of where they are.
And just repeat for me, there is a form.
Yes.
And they can find the form
They can find the form on our website at ltg.gov.vi under the Office of the Tax Collector forms. And so they can request their appointment, provide all of the information, so when we receive the form, we already have the preliminary information to start with.
So they're not going to go to, so let me know from now, they're not going to go to the form and click and then call my office and say, Your link is broken. How come I can't complete? That's not going to happen.
No, it's working.
Okay.
It's working. We verified that.
So you verified it just before you came on the Facebook Live?
Yes, I did.
Okay, this is excellent. I'm trying to get as few complaints as possible, Mr.
Fair
Mayor.
question.
All right. Since you've taken off some of the heat off of me as a tax collector,
Yes, sir.
you know, I just want to make sure we cover all the bases. Okay, now, somebody again, I can't find my tax bill. I don't have any information about the tax control number. I might only know my property address or something, what quarter it is, et cetera, et cetera. So if you don't have the bill, if you don't have the physical bill in your hand, because we have people with all kinds of questions.
Yes.
Elderly people call the office. They're lost in this computer age and all of this technology, right? So if they can't find this number on the bill, if they don't have the bill in their hand, what do they do?
Contact the office, and the Office of the Tax Assessor, which is part, as you know, of the Real Property Tax Division, would provide them with a bill copy if they have not received a bill.
Very good. Thank you. And when you get this, one of the important things we want to point out, lots of persons called the office when we had the amnesty in effect. And I want to ensure that they understand that by law, even with an amnesty, there's no waiver of taxes. I cannot waive the payment of taxes. What an amnesty applies to is the interest
and penalties only.
And penalties that have been assessed because of the failure to pay on time.
That is
so
correct.
You have those people asking, when they see this number on the listing, what does that number represent? They want to know if it contains all of the information. So what does that, tell us what the numbers are.
The information that was published for tax years 2015 and prior includes the base taxes for each year that is still open, as well as the interest and penalties that had accrued by law.
Okay, very good. We have a question that pretty much asks something that was discussed before. Does the amount clear the property of taxes? And I think you just want to emphasize that we want to make sure there's no current delinquency as well.
So in order to do a payment plan, we would first issue a status report that provides a delineation of all tax years. So in some people's cases, the only obligations may have been something in 2015 or prior. But for other taxpayers, they may have obligations on the books for the successive years coming up to 2021. And so it's on a case-by-case basis. We are focused first on tax years 2015 and prior. So that is the first obligation they should be focused on right now.
Okay. Now, I've had this question come to me before the listing, and I see that people are still asking it. And it's the instances where they may have purchased a property, but the bill still is in the name of the prior owner. So they may have noticed on the listing that the prior owner's name is listed, and they ask this question: how do I fix this? How do I get my name to be the correct listing on the property? Please respond to that.
That's a very important question. And we see this happening all the time. In the Virgin Islands, real estate transactions can happen, but in order for you to record the real estate transaction with the recorder of deeds, you have to get a tax clearance certificate. And oftentimes people may bypass that requirement and they don't record with the recorder of deeds. The tax assessor on January 1st of every year pulls the information from the recorder of deeds that has whatever information for each property parcel. And so it's that information that they use. Now, when a tax bill comes out or when a delinquency list is published, if it involves tax years that was prior to the current owner, it would then list the owner of record during the time that that bill came out.
Gotcha.
So even though it may be their property number, it was the prior owner at the time that had that obligation. But by law, the obligation doesn't follow the property owner, it follows the property parcel.
Right. I see. So as long as there was a delinquency, it would reflect the person to whom that delinquency
to whom is the owner of the property at this time.
Right.
It would reflect the property owner that owned it first, but the obligation now would fall on the current property owner.
And how do they get the name changed? They have to go to the tax assessor, or?
They have to first record it properly with the recorder of deeds, and that would transfer across to the office of the tax assessor, and it would be corrected on future bills.
Okay, very good. Another important question. Persons who do not pay their property taxes directly, but whose property taxes are escrowed by the bank, and so they have given the responsibility, and they actually pay the bank for that service to pay the property taxes on their behalf. So property owners may say, I'm paying my mortgage, I'm current with my mortgage, but I see my name and the property listed as being delinquent in taxes. What should they do in those instances?
Many times, mortgage companies and banks pay in bulk, and they oftentimes pay just prior to the delinquency date. So when a bulk payment comes in, oftentimes it cannot be entered immediately, and it takes several days before that bulk payment is registered in our system. So it may be sometimes, especially towards the end of the billing period, when a tax year is about to become delinquent, that payments made by mortgage companies do not yet reflect in our system. In a situation like that, if someone is trying to obtain, say, a tax clearance certificate, which requires you to have all taxes paid, we are able to look into the bulk payments that were made by banks and to ascertain whether or not the taxes have been paid, and we do provide the clearance certificates to accommodate that.
Okay, excellent. And of course, people are free to inquire with their banks if they have any other question, as well as contacting our offices.
That's
Thank
correct.
you for that. Now, there's a real dichotomy, right? So we have a set of people who are upset that their name is published on the listing that they are delinquent, which we say we have a legal obligation to do.
We do.
We're going to go by the law, right?
We do.
But then the corollary to that is that you have persons who are chomping at the bit to buy a property. They want an auction. They want an auction like tomorrow, right? And so we also have questions that come from those persons. So here we have one that asks, if a property is listed on the delinquency list, will it automatically be placed for auction? And of course, we've said no.
Absolutely no.
Right? This is not.
It's not an auction list.
And so if you're chomping at the bit to buy a property, you have to wait.
Please hold.
For a little while longer. Right. We have some other questions that we're going to come to. We may also have some questions online that we will want to address, but we're going to take another break. Please stay with us. We look forward to continuing the discussion with tax collector Brent Leardom.
The Atlantic hurricane season begins on June 1st and lasts through November 30th. Please take necessary steps to protect you, your family, and the community.
Begin collecting supplies such as bottled waters and non-perishable food, batteries, radios, games for children.
Don't forget about your pets, and especially your elderly family. Take time now to trim trees, install or check shutters, talk to children about hurricanes, and allow them to pack their own go bags.
These activities can help reduce anxiety in the event of a storm. We're a small community.
Together we can ensure our islands, homes, and families remain prepared for hurricanes.
Register for Alert VI emergency notification by visiting vitema.vi.gov. Make a plan.
Be prepared.
Stay informed.
But what you saying, Jimmy? Me taking a hot minute, you know. What's going on today, John? It's been a hot minute for real. You wanna know something? My mother told me that I can't come out my house because of COVID-19. I know we ain't safe out here for a little bit, but still I just have some fun though. Well, my side can't leave the house unless I'm vaccinated. But you won't scared of the vaccine? Nah, sis. The vaccine's safe.
VI people, you must stay at work. COVID-19 is not a joke. It's much more than good hygiene. Give your children the vaccine. Education is the golden rule. Children need in-person school. They miss music, dancing and sports. Vaccination is better, not worse.
I want a COVID vaccine. Give me the COVID vaccine. It's safe, mommy. The vaccine safe, safe, safe. I want to see my friends and family. Playing with them makes me happy. It's safe, mommy. The vaccine safe, safe, safe.
Children can become infected, get sick, and spread COVID-19 to others. Widespread vaccination is a critical tool to help stop the pandemic. People who are fully vaccinated can resume activities that they did prior to the pandemic. The MCH division encourages you to get your children ages 12 years and older vaccinated.
I want a COVID vaccine. Give me the COVID vaccine. It's safe, mommy. The vaccine safe, safe, safe.
Brought to you by the Virgin Islands Department of Health MCH program.
Thank you again for joining us for this discussion with tax collector Mr. Brent Latham. Now, Mr. Latham, the publication carried a notice as well, and the notice stated very clearly what the statutory requirement is, what the statutory citation, the citation to the code for why this publication is necessary. It also gave people a time frame for when the payment should be made. And there are questions that are being asked both online as well as the offices about that information that was provided in the cover letter. I think it gave, 30 days?
Yes.
Explain for us, please.
Okay, so from the date of publication, actually the last date of the publication, once it has run its course, 30 days after that, the government has the authority to place a lien or to attach or to place a lien on each property. And so that would be a first priority lien that would prevent that property from moving without that lien being taken care of. Right. And it would apply to their ability to make payments. They can still continue to make payments, whether in full or in part, with a payment plan, up until just before auction, actually. And so there would be plenty of time for them to cure the delinquencies during the time that we move towards auctions.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going back to some of the questions that have come in on the Facebook Live. And this person says, I signed an agreement for a payment plan to pay the delinquent taxes, but I'm not able to pay my current. That says I wasn't able to pay my 2021 tax bill. How is that? Is that
that was a glitch that we had in our system that's been addressed, and so those customers would be able to remit payment for future years. 2021 bill is now delinquent, so for this year it may be a moot point. But for successive years, if a person had a payment plan for, let's say, 3 years, when the 2022 and 2023 bill is issued, they would still be required to pay that because those were not included in the payment plan, and they would be able to do so. We're having that addressed right now.
Okay, so we apologize to those persons who had any difficulty using the system.
Yes, we certainly do.
So we're aware.
Yes.
And we are working to correct it. So please bear with us as we get that addressed. We'll make sure that there's no consequence to you for doing that.
Yes.
Now, another question is whether there is a charge. Somebody said that they were charged because they didn't have the bill, and that it seems like they said they were charged, or somebody might have told them that there's a $30 charge if you don't have the bill.
Well, there's a $2 charge for a bill copy. Okay. But in this time, after having issued the delinquency publication, we're providing copies to persons for free. Okay. If you didn't get a bill, please feel free to contact our office, and we would provide you with a bill copy.
So ordinarily, we might have charged you $2 to get a copy, but we're not doing that at this time.
That's correct.
So thank you for that. So whether you have it or not, please call and bear with us. Now, I did have a complaint that persons are saying that they're calling and they stay on the line a long time, they can't reach someone, and just that they have difficulty in contacting the tax collector's office. Help us with that. Tell us a little about a complaint like that.
Well, first, we apologize for the delays that are happening, but the high traffic volume that we experience, both in-person walk-ins as well as on the phone, as well as email, it's extremely unprecedented. And so we endeavor to respond to every person and to give them the attention that they need for their inquiry.
Okay.
But it's been a long haul because it's been a backlog.
No. Understood.
So we do apologize for that.
Okay. Now, again, we want to make every effort to be as clear to persons as we can about how we can work with them in discharging this obligation. So a person online wants to ask the question, does that deadline that goes with a notice of the publication listing, is that the deadline for entering into a payment plan? Can they enter into a payment plan even after this period noted in the publication has passed?
Yes, they can enter into a publication after.
Payment plan?
A payment plan. They can enter into a payment plan for several months after. There's a point right before the auctions when they can only make full payment and not enter a payment plan. We are far ways away from that, and we will publish the auction rules when that time comes, which would state the cutoff time for persons to take a payment plan instead of having to pay in full up to the last day.
Okay. So we would definitely just want to ensure that people understand that this publication listing is primary. It is at the very first step that we're required to do before any other action is taken against the property.
That is correct.
And we will work with you to suit your circumstances. We'll work with whatever is going on with you and your family to enter payment plans to discharge that obligation.
That is correct.
Okay. We thank you for that. I think the concern, I was asked this question, and we haven't had any more prompts for questions online, but the question is, this is a long time that this delinquency has been existing.
Yes.
100 million going back to 1979, and I have just tried to assure the public in general that we are trying to pick up from where we are.
Yes.
We can't really go back to 1979. We can't even go back to 1996
Correct.
or 2000. We are where we are, and we're trying to deal with the situation that we're in.
Yes.
So we're gonna come back to this discussion, but we do have another break to take. Please continue to stay with us. We look forward to wrapping up in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Virgin Islands veterans, I'm standing here on Veterans Drive, built in honor of us, Virgin Islands veterans. But we now must do our part to bring more VA medical benefits to our shores. How can we do that, you may ask? Get on www.va.gov and get registered. This is the way that we can do our part. Get registered at www.va.gov. We're counting on you.
Has the COVID pandemic caused you to fall behind on your rent? What about your electric or water bills? Well, VIHFA's Emergency Rental Assistance Program is here to help you catch up. For program details and qualifications, go to VIHFA and click on the ERAP link. From there, it's just 3 steps. 1. Make sure you are eligible. Have you lost income due to COVID-19, owe at least 1 month of rent or utilities? and meet the federal household income guidelines for your island? 2. Gather all the required ID and documentation for all members of your household, plus statements from your landlord or utility company. 3. Submit your application online at vihfa.gov or call one of the intake centers on your island to make an appointment to apply in person. For more details and locations of the intake centers, please visit vihfa.gov.
For joining us again. We're going to wrap up this discussion. Mr. Latham, there was one last question about whether there can be emailed a bill or...
Yes, we email bills regularly, and we can email to anyone that contacts our office and needs one.
Okay, great. So we've come to the close of this discussion. We still had a last question asking, when is the auction? We've endeavored to say the auction is a long ways away.
It is.
This listing will have to be scrubbed. Yes. We have to take off all the people who have paid, all the people who have entered payment plans, and their other legal requirements before we even get to the place of an auction.
That's correct.
But we just have to keep repeating it so that we're all clear. And I'm going to ask you now to give us a few remarks as we wrap up this session before we leave people go back to their dinner and whatever else they have pressing.
Well, thank you, Lieutenant Governor Roach. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to serve the Brian Roach administration and to the people of the Virgin Islands, and for the opportunity to address this important task of the delinquencies that we have. Mm-hmm. And it's an honor to do so, and we encourage everyone to please contact our office. The government is not trying to auction people's land. We're not trying to sell people's property or to take their homes. We have every interest in making an arrangement for you to come and pay those obligations. And so we encourage you to contact us, and whether making payment in full or arranging for a payment plan, or if you need to perhaps change your address in your bill, contact us, please. And we're there to serve you, and we would be happy to serve you.
Thank you for that. And thank you for the good work that you do.
Thank you.
I always want to let people know that I have the best staff in the territory, private, public included, and I want to continue to thank them for the good work that they do. I also want to thank the public in general, as people have recognized their obligation and have paid their taxes. They've come in and in some cases discharged their total delinquency. They've come in and they have made payment plans to do so, and we really, really appreciate their opportunity. They're taking this opportunity to address their responsibilities to the government. We want to continue thanking them for that. We want to thank Mr. George and Ms. Jarlene Knight, and to wish them well as they go off to receive our exemplary award that adds to our accreditation of our banking and insurance division. And our congratulations to Dr. Hunt for being recognized on the national scene. Right. And we want to close out by making sure that we encourage persons to get vaccinated. I know that there is a discussion, some are not wanting to get it, but in every case we've seen where it prevents serious injury and death. And so we want to encourage you there's still the opportunity to take it. We've extended the vaccine administration to our sister territory in the BVI. I was present to see the boatloads of people who came down from the BVI, grateful for the opportunity to get it. We saw people buy tickets on Spirit and American and United and whoever else to come down here, stay in Airbnbs, contribute to our tourism product just because they could get the vaccine easier here than in their home state. And I think our health officials are to really be commended for the good work that they've done in keeping us safe and in making sure that we have access to all of the medical care that our people require. So please go out, get vaccinated. God bless each and every one of you this evening. Thank you for taking the time to join us. God bless the Virgin Islands. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ledo.
Thank you very much.